Can I kindly ask all the men in the room to close their eyes for the next 10 seconds? And as you do so, kindly look back to the last time you felt the most like a man. Think even deeper. When was the last time you felt the most masculine? Now open. For most of us, the last time we felt the most like a man was perhaps when we sorted the house rent without any contribution from the female gender. Aha, I see someone there. For some others, it's the last time you gave mommy money and tried to prove that you are the best child that she has. While for some others, sadly, the last time you felt like a man was trying to fight back the tears and not cry when you lost a loved one. For the most of us, that's what we've attributed masculinity to. Whether that is good or bad, I'll leave you to decide at the last instance of this conversation. But here's my point. We've been made to believe for the longest that a man has to be brave enough to never break. But when I look through Africa and I look at the people redefining the business arena, what I see are people who actually are brave enough to break, but also build themselves back up and appear even stronger. Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I think it's time to redefine what masculinity is and what it means for you to truly be a man in this day and age. We currently have an anachronistic mentality with respect to masculinity. We've been made to make men feel like for you to be a man, you have to dominate. You have to dominate every scene, dominate every conversation, and you must never show that you're weak. Whereas, on the other hand, what it takes to build successful empires are actually much different. Because it will take some given level of emotional intelligence, it will take some given level of collaboration, and not dominance for you to be able to erect a successful business empire. And so I'm tempted to say that I do not think that the current masculinity arrangement is one that equips African entrepreneurs to really build for the long haul. But don't take my word for it. I think I want to show you. I like to say that toxic masculinity, on one hand, has actually sold us so many lies. One of such lies is that you must never show your weakness. There was a very damning statistic that I once read about a research carried out by the Flourish Ventures in 2024. They did a study of several startup founders from about 13 African countries and found out that about 86% of them are struggling with one mental issue or another. It doesn't end there. Only 14% of these 86% actually feel comfortable talking about their many worries. I think that's damning. I think it's very crazy. We've been taught and told that every single instance that you show your inadequacy, it makes you weak. And this has actually led to a very interesting conversation. And we've also carried out this particular mentality and translated it into our businesses. Think about it. The average male Nigerian entrepreneur, for example, feels like every time he acts like he doesn't have something figured out, it could make other people disrespect him. But what if I told you that's your greatest undoing? Another lie we've been told is also that as a man in business, you should know how to do everything yourself. I grew up raised by a widowed mom, an engineer turned caterer. So it took Eba money to send me to school. But I remember just like yesterday, growing up, when my caterer mom would enter into the compound, having had a long day at Iduro or at my 12 market, getting the freshest pepper ever. And she walks into the house and she says, Shola, Toby, ewa ba mi gbe rice, ti mo ra láti Daleko. What that means is, come and help me carry the rice that I bought from Daleko. And so I come out as a guy. And then I get to the boot of the vehicle as some young child, perhaps 12, 13, and I go to where the rice is. I know I can't carry the full bag of rice by myself. It was about 50 kg. But then, the moment I spot a lady around me, you know what happens. My sociology background offers some explanation to that. It's what we call social facilitation. It's been said that there's something called coactor effect and another called an audience effect, which means that you are very likely to want to perform better when other people are watching you, particularly females as a guy. And so you feel I can do it all by myself. Now, whether you like it or not, those were seed forms that will later translate into something much bigger in the future. And so we get into businesses as entrepreneurs and we feel like we've got this all figured out. And what that happens is that for some people, it translates to you damning the need to even get mentorship when you know you need it. Because you feel like the moment I ever let people think or even assume in the slightest that I don't have everything figured out, it makes me look weak. Well, I think what makes you look weak is not that you don't have everything figured out. What makes you look weak is that you think that it is weakness to ask for help. Another very popular lie that toxic masculinity has sold us is the belief that you are always right as a man and no one can correct you. You know, I always say in my boardroom conversations and in my management meetings, I tell my team, I said, look, I'm not trying to be the smartest man in this room. I'm trying to build the smartest room. Which means that every successful entrepreneur who will truly build a profitable empire must be one who is secure enough to take the fresh ideas of others, even though they are better than his, and refine them to move the business forward. I don't have to always be right. It's a lie that you've been told. And I'm speaking to the men in the room, and I hope that the women, on the other hand, also help us raise in return the next generation of men who will put things right. And so today, as I drive home a very important point, I want to ask that we treat life with more courage. Now, when I say courage, many people think in physical terms. We think that true courage is the ability to face a lion, fight on the streets, and prove your physical ability to exert yourself in every situation. That's cute, but that's not where true strength lies. That's not where true strength lies. And so today I want to combat these lies that toxic masculinity has sold us with truths. I have just about 4 of them. The very first truth is that you must have the courage to feel. Men, you must have the courage to feel. Because it is only a heart that can feel pain that can also feel purpose. It is only a man who can sit with his fears on a Sunday evening that can face dauntlessly the tasks ahead on a Monday morning. You must be able to feel. We're in a world where men and young boys are told to bottle everything in. Listen, when you keep bottling it in, one day the bottle is going to erupt. And when it erupts, you cannot give it direction because it will go wherever it wants to. Your inability to feel has actually caused so much pain in us, but we don't take attention or pay attention to this because we pay it no mind. I'm here to tell you sometimes it's okay to feel things. It's okay to be in your feelings every Eke Market day. It's fine. It sure is fine. Because if you do not learn to feel things, what will end up happening is you get into a state of catharsis, an emotional explosion. And one day you just tear up or you just scatter because you haven't trained yourself to manage your emotions because all you've ever been doing has been to suppress it. If I asked you, everyone here, how many minutes do you have in a year? You perhaps will go ask ChatGPT or pick up your calculator. I'll save you the stress. We have about 525,600 minutes in a year. But if I also asked you, do you know how many men kill themselves per year? I'll also save you the ChatGPT in and tell you that we have about 525,000 male suicides per year. You know what that equates to? It equates to 1 suicide every minute for a man. About 70% of all the suicides in the world are committed by men. Don't ask me if there's any tangible relationship between our inability to feel our pain and handle them with the problem of suicide. The second thing I want you to have the courage to do today is the courage to ask. 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 Now, this is very personal because as an individual, I'm someone who doesn't know how to ask for help. All through my life, Having lost my dad at the tender age of 7, I had just built some form of mentality that since no one is ever coming to save me, the salvation of myself has got to come from within. And in as much as that has got some positives, the negatives are also there. Because it means in many cases that you just throw to the back seat the ability for other people to actually bail you out in moments where they can. And so this evening, I want to ask you, you need to build the courage to ask. Particularly as an entrepreneur, that courage to step into boardrooms and say, guys, I think we're stuck here. We might need your help again. Listen, in my opinion, seeking help is actually a true show of strength. No one seeks help the right way without some given level of self-awareness. Because self-awareness is understanding your strengths and understanding your weaknesses also. Knowing what you are capable of doing, knowing your core competencies, but also knowing the areas in which you fall short. And so when you know the areas you fall short, it's easy for you to look and cry out for help and say, you know what, I'm going to need some complementing and some supplementing in this area. And it leads me to the penultimate thing I want you to build courage on. Is the courage to rest. Dear men, build the courage to rest. Now, this is note to self, because my EA is somewhere in the room saying, Yimu, practice what you preach first, sir. Damn, I hear you. But perhaps I think I'm speaking not only to the crowd, but also to myself. Let's build the courage to rest. A lion does not hunt for 24 hours. Many times it sits in a shed and refills and refuels for it to be able to go hard again. Yorubas will say, that means that when a ram goes back, you think he could be retreating, but it's actually going to come back with more strength because it's going to attack with full force. Which means that it's time for you to stop seeing rest as a symbol of weakness. No, rest is an investment for more work. Don't burn out. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It's a liability. Don't burn out. The world needs you. Please rest. 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 Check the statistics worldwide. As we currently speak, there is no country in the world where men have a higher life expectancy than women. Only 3 countries even come very close enough. It's that bad. Listen, if you don't rest, you will not live long enough to reap the fruits of your labor. If you don't rest, it will be your sons and your children that will be telling the world the mighty tales of your conquest. Because usually not every victor lives to tell his tales and enjoy the spoils of the war. Rest! 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 There's no award for who suffer pass. No, not at all. And the final thing I want you to build courage on is you must build the courage to fail forward. The courage to fail forward. There's a popular African proverb that he who has not fallen has not climbed. I agree. And I'm sure everyone in this room will agree. But the truth is, why then do we do the opposite of that? If the average African entrepreneur fails at something, you know what they do? They exit, they leave social media, turn off their WhatsApp, block everyone, and they go into their shells. That seems to be our modus operandi every single time we fail. But what if you start rethinking failure and start seeing failure not as full stop, but a meaningful comma in the sentence of your success story? How about you start seeing failure as an undetachable part of the entire idea of success? That it's almost as though the greatest successes are actually the greatest failures. I'll give you a very crazy statistic. Do you know that about 8 in 10 of African startups actually fail within the first 3 years? However, here's the juicier part. It's been proven that second-time founders, I mean those who have failed earlier and choose to start again, are 4 times likelier to actually build the next unicorn. So it's almost as though the greatest cases of success are also tied and linked to the greatest cases of failure. Just think about it. Think about Paga, Tayo Oviosu. In 2011, after raising about $2 million, had to stand in front of his investors and say, guys, I failed. But he didn't stop there. He says, I failed, but there's something I learned and I want you to back me again. Newsflash, 14 years after, Paga is now worth $500 million. Do I talk about the very amazing story everyone likes to talk about? The story of Paystack, how they exited in 2020 at $200 million. Nice. Everyone likes the viewpoint, but no one likes to know how to climb the stairs. So I'll give you a bit of the process story, the one behind the results. In the early days of Paystack, Shola Akinade had to look his employees in the eye because he could not make payroll. And he had to call some of them on the phone and even had to cry with them and promise them that he will fix it. And fix it he did. He wasn't a man who was running after every point of failure. He was someone who saw failure as an undetachable part of the journey. One of the best things I like to say whenever I talk about failure is you must learn to fall in love with the F word. Failure. Not the F word you know, but this F word. I'll tell you something as I leave. You see, one of the greatest stories that you've ever heard about anything invention and innovation is that of Thomas Alva Edison. As the guy reputed to have discovered the light bulb. We all talk about it and the fact that he tried 999 times before getting that 1,000th time. Yeah, we know it and celebrate it. But the question is this: how many of you would have made it to the 10th effort? How many? And when Thomas Alva Edison was asked, what happened and how did you fail 1,000 times? You know what he said? He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways that did not work. I'm going to leave you borrowing a bit of IBK Quick's intonation. That the African man is not one who is scared of the fall. The African man is one who is scared of remaining on the ground. I hope you build courage. Thank you.